programming languages versus scripting languages. All right, this one's really easy, but there's actually a lot of controversy behind it, primarily because people who learn mostly scripting languages think that they're being demeaned by having their languages turned into a separate category that's not as hardcore as the programmers. And then the programmers who are in this category, they like to think that, why should they be called programmers when they're not really programming? They're doing they're doing simple scripting. The big thing is there's no real difference. We use the term scripting language and programming language simply and only for classification. That is because scripting languages are not compiled and programming languages are compiled. It's really as simple as that. Doesn't mean that one's better or worse than the other. They all have their uses, and I wouldn't really want to be compiling my PHP daily, and I definitely wouldn't want to be not compiling my C++. It doesn't make sense. So the terminology is used to simply help us kind of figure out what we're actually doing. So the main difference, like I said, was compiling. So what is compiling really? Compiling is just very simple. You write the code out, and in a scripting language, which is not compiled, a scripting language would actually read each line of code and interpret it and decide what to do with each line of code. And then it will produce an action based on that. Usually it's something like printing text to the screen or, rendering something. Then you have compiled code. Now, compiled code is where it takes similar lines of code, and then it turns it into machine code, or it turns it into simply something that's closer to machine code than it was. Compiling requires you to literally recompile the program every time you make a change. Whereas non-compiled programs, you can make a change and simply rerun the interpreter, which is usually just some kind of a process sitting somewhere. And you can just rerun it and it displays whatever it needs to display or runs the code as it should. So that's the only real differences. Usually scripting languages are simpler. Usually they're vastly simpler. Things like PHP, it's, conceptually is so simple compared to other languages like C++, that sometimes people want to get in this mindset of saying one's superior or better than the other just because one's compiled and one's not. In reality, there's no big difference other than the fact that they're compiled or not. And there you go. That's scripting languages